What are some of the things that you could do to help your kids process through this and minimize the impact of it?
I definitely think taking responsibility for your behavior in front of your children.
Oh,
You know,
that's
they
good.
pick up on way more than you realize.
That's
and
good.
Kids need stability. You know, they're very resilient. Kids
Mm-hmm.
bounce back. It's pretty amazing how resilient they
That's
are.
right.
But at the beginning, when everything changes, they really need the support of their unified parents. So
right.
even though you've decided, okay, we can no longer be married and we're going to divorce, it's not the end. You still have to build
good.
some type of relationship with one another to where you can be friends on some level and set a good example for your children, because you're still modeling Christ
Yeah.
in front of your children.
Yeah.
So the way you treat one another is so important. And kids need stability. They need a routine, you know.
Yeah.
The things that are important to them, let them keep it. You know,
Sure.
just work together, learn to work together for the benefit of your children.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, and I know, especially from a counseling perspective, you know, having somebody that can sit down with those kids and maybe help them unpack. It's not,
Definitely.
you know, one of the problems you have when you are in the divorce is that, you know, your kids feel the pressure that it puts on you and the hurt that it puts on you, but they've got things they need to talk about. But they
Absolutely.
feel like that if I talk to mom about it, it's going to hurt because mom cries.
Yeah, they get put in the middle.
Yeah. So, you know, I think counseling is one of those things where you put them in an environment where they have a chance to talk to somebody that their conversation doesn't hurt the other person.
Yes, definitely. And also the parents sitting down with someone they can talk to,
Yeah.
you know, with a counselor or someone, because you don't want to say anything in front of your children that will harm them.
Yeah.
So everybody having a safe place to talk those things through is so important. It really helps the family unit be able to move forward and
Sure.
create that new normal.
That's good. Even deferring to God, you know, we're going to pray for mom. You know, we're going to pray for
Absolutely.
mommy. We're going to,
Yeah.
you know, this is not how it's supposed to look. This is not how it should be, but we're going to be praying for daddy.
Definitely.
You know, we're going to be, you know, God's got this and he's got us, you know, and having your kids in the middle of a bad circumstance like this, but also exposing them to the greater, you know, will of a God who's sovereign, you know, is really a big deal, because you have to understand that we are image bearers of God. To our kids, we're the first exposure that they get to what the Godhead looks like. You know, dad, mom, you know, the picture of justice and the picture of mercy, the picture of holiness and the picture of grace is all. And so when that gets broken up for a kid, that's very turbulent.
Yes.
And so having them understand that this was a picture that's being held by broken hands.
Yeah.
Yet there's a God in eternity. He's still in control, and he's going to work with us, and us deferring to that. And that may mean, you know, taking the higher ground every opportunity you get, rather than, you know, when the negative, mean, bitter statement is thrown at you, or someone says something or whatever, you don't volley it back.
No.
Instead, you say, you know what, we're going to put that in God's hands and we're going to trust him with that. And your kids start seeing a pattern of, I can trust God in hurtful times like this, where things are not going the way that I want them to go. And so,
You definitely teach your children how to respond to stress.
Yes.
When you're going through a really difficult season. So it's important to be mindful. We don't have to be perfect.
That's
You
right.
know, you can lose it one day and then come back and say, okay,
That's right.
you know, I lost it yesterday, but I should have reacted this way, A, B, and C.
That's
You know,
right.
teach them through it, but don't forget them or leave them behind, because they're living through this divorce just like you are.
That's right.
Well, and I think, you know, when I've walked through it and seen it, you know, happen, and I've had people ask me, like, you know, what do I do? You know, and you paint all the different scenarios, and there's a million, and everybody's scenario is a little bit different or whatever. But there are times where it's completely out of your control. The they're leaving, and you've done everything you can. You're begging them to go to counseling. You're begging them to get. And I've seen it, man. I've seen it on both sides, men and women, begging them to go to counseling, begging them to come to church, begging them to do anything with them, begging them to stay, and they just won't. They're just out. Now, I will say this: when you have children, you are no longer the priority.
Yep.
And that's the part. It's hard for a lot of people to stomach, like, well, I don't like this. Well, I don't care. You have kids and you've got to get over it. And you're no longer the center of attention. It's no longer about you. It's not about what you like or having a marriage that benefits you. It has to shift, and your kids become the priority. It's what's best for them. It's what's best. Now, again, going back, A situation where there's abuse, emotional or physical, that's a different scenario at that point. But when you're married with kids and you're about to have a divorce, you got to get yourself out of it. You're like, well, I don't like what this person does. Well, it doesn't matter. You're going to have to find a way to make it work. Fake it till you feel it, whatever you got to do. And it may not be enjoyable for you for a long time. There may be years where you don't like it, but your kids, this is the best opportunity for them to get through this. And I think that's the first thing is shifting those priorities, understand the kids have got to come first. And I would say this is get off Facebook. Don't share your relationship with other people. Stop
That's
talking
good.
to other people. Talk to a counselor if you need to talk to somebody, but don't go around looking for validation from other people in your relationship and in your divorce. So if you're getting a divorce and you're like, well, he's leaving me and I've done everything I can, you're going to spill all that junk on Facebook. You're ruining your kids' lives.
Yeah.
You're ruining them. You're ruining it. You're ruining it. You will ruin their lives literally. And so stop, get off that stuff. Stop talking to other people. If you're doing the right thing, then you shouldn't need validation. You just do the right thing and move on. And I think that's where for us, your kids are the priority. Again, you don't need to be validated. Your kids need to be the priority in every decision that you make. And if you do that, if you show them as the priority, obviously honoring God first, but showing your kids that they're the priority, then ultimately they will be able to walk through this and go, hey, okay, I was prioritized. My mom cared about or my dad thought, cared about what I thought. They cared about they asked me questions. They asked me if I was okay. They walked through this with me. I think that's a big deal to your kids and things like that. And I know we kind of shifted away from, the individual relationship. If you're married without kids, I believe that's a completely different divorce.
Yeah, definitely.
I know it's sad to say, but the truth is that when you're married with kids, it's just a different ball game, man. The kids are involved now, and that's their mom or that's their dad. And no matter how much that they're a terrible person or that they didn't do what they were supposed to do, that's still their mom or dad.
That's right.
And
That's
if you're
right.
getting a divorce because you want less work, you're making a mistake because divorce is more work.
I think a lot of what I hear is, I just want this over.
Right.
I just
It
want
ain't
this
gonna be
to
over.
end. And
Yeah.
one of the things that I will say is it's not ever over.
It's not.
That's the dad or the mom
Yeah,
to
that's
your
right.
kids.
Yeah.
You're going to have to learn some
Forever.
way to have a relationship with them. And
Yeah.
sometimes it's really, really broken. I get that. Usually the first couple of years, research wise, it's very, very hard
Yeah,
for
absolutely.
the family. But then everyone begins to acclimate. But they do that because everyone decides, hey, we're going to do what's best
Yeah.
for the kids. And we're going to do what's best in God's eyes.
You bet.
Yeah.
You bet. Well, and I think it's so important that if you don't put your kids in the middle where they're the battle, sword, if they're the whatever, and I think the other part is turning their heart away from their mom or dad. You may have been hurt by them. And that's absolutely true. And I don't think anybody wants to minimize that.
No.
And that hurt may be there, and they may be continuing to injure you, and that happens too. There's people that they just get this mean bitterness and they just do some mean, bitter stuff. But the best thing you can do for your kids is show them how you can take someone treating you harshly and horribly, and you can put that in the hands of God, because your security, your future, your emotional horsepower and everything is based on Christ redeeming and working in your life. Jesus is our example. He's betrayed, he's turned over, he's being crucified, and all the while at every corner does not harbor the bitterness, does not receive that. He turns it over, turns it over. And by doing that, yes, vengeance, we want it, But the issue with revenge revenge isn't a discipline issue. Revenge is an issue. Can I trust God?
Oh, absolutely.
Can I trust God?
Him to be the righteous?
Yeah, let him be the one to figure this out, because God's going to be the one that's going to handle this, and so I'm going to put it in his hands. And as much as a divorce is horrible and God hates it and it's devastating, during that dark time, you can still teach your kids some incredible stuff.
Absolutely.
You can show them, hey, you know what? God's still in control.
Definitely.
I'm going to trust him. We're not going to take this in our own hands. We're going to leave that up to the Lord, and we're not going to return, bitterness for bitterness, hate for hate, anger for anger. We're just not going to do that. And don't put them in the middle of that. Don't let the kids be the middle of that. And at the same time, talk positively.
Yeah.
Speak positive things into their lives, and speak positive into the kids' lives.